Friends, today's NRI Samay program from Los Angeles brought to you commercial free by listeners like you. Your generous donations make possible for us to stay commercial free, and today's show is pre-recorded. If you have a question for the guest, please send an email to nrisamay@gmail.com. We will follow up with the guest and find the answer for you. Thank you for your support.
Lakshmi Narayana garu, namaste and welcome to NRI Samay.
Yeah, namaste.
Sir, I know you are very busy and we really appreciate taking time and talking to us because a lot of listeners were asking about this interview. So we are really honored to have you and thank you very much. Sir, I met you first time you were giving a speech in Bapatla Engineering College. There was a lot of enthusiastic students. They were listening, and towards the end, when I spoke to you and I was getting your phone number, some students saw that and they were asking for me for your number. Then it occurred to me how much you have influenced, you have motivated people across, across Andhra Pradesh at least that I know of. Do you understand the impact you had over the last few years?
I mean, in the sense, it's only after I handed over my charge, I started interacting with people. So, in fact, especially my concentration was mostly on the school-going children and also the college-going students. So, my basic issue is to see that, they get some motivation and also basically to tell them that to make them practice the concept called karma yoga. Do your work with all sincerity and all. You need not be afraid of anything, and you do your work. Maybe as a student you give your 100%. Then definitely you'll get the result. And I also keep telling them, don't be concentrating on the result. You do your job, definitely the result is going to follow you. That's why I could meet almost about 30 to 40,000 youngsters during this period. And it was quite a satisfying this thing also.
Yeah, but that's actually one of my principles. My father told me in childhood, I think he took it out of Bhagavad Gita, do your job, don't worry, leave the result to...
Yeah. Yes.
But even before you were giving the speeches, I think people were already motivated by seeing your work, because I tell that because there was people like us, we were looking for examples to build a hope for the future in terms of wherever you see there's a lot of corruption and all the stories that you hear are failures of the honest people in terms of that, maybe there's a case who filed and, then somehow it got forgotten. For example, Ramling Raju case or, then there are examples about Ashok Khemka, IAS officer, and Uma Shankar IAS officer from Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
We were looking for hope, and there's a lot of hope generated when you are dealing very high-profile cases like Jagan Mohan Reddy or Kali Janardhan, etc.
Yeah, those cases apart, that is part of the duty which we were doing. My emphasis was on people also to say that civil services offers a lot of scope for people to serve the society. That is one thing I wanted to tell the youth also. So in a way motivating them also to take up this also, in addition to what they are doing.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of courses also now available in the last few years, I think, where you really inspired them. Can you briefly tell what are the main powers of CBI in terms of how is it different from other police system?
Yeah, basically, precisely, CBI is an organization which is the main job is to carry out the investigations. So whereas, if you take the normal police and all, they have other duties, and investigation is also one of the duties. So wherein the CBI can effectively concentrate on the investigation part of it. Otherwise, they are not bogged down with other the local law and order issues or other issues. So they get sufficient time to concentrate on the investigation. And basically, it's an anti-corruption agency. CBI as an organization is an anti-corruption agency. And being a central government, it's a federal body, its jurisdiction is on the public servants of the central government. Public servants functioning in the central government. Their corruption complaints are sometimes suo motovely taken suo moto, or sometimes given by the constitutional courts. This is how the CBI functioning is. Whereas if you take the state governments, then the state anti-corruption bureaus, they take up they have the similar jurisdiction, but they cater to the corruption in the public servants of the state government. That is the difference.
I see. And can you briefly tell about the limitations of CBI? And I'm asking in terms of how much control the federal government has once you start the investigation, or when they're making transfers or when they're appointing people.
The first issue is that there is an act called the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act. That act says if you want to take up a case against an officer of the rank of Joint Secretary and above in Government of India, you need the permission from the central government. That is one of the riders that is there, so that your cognizance or your suo moto action is restricted to officers below that. So that is one thing that has already been there in the Act. And otherwise, as an officer who has worked in the organization, I can say that, once we take up the case, there is no pressure or any this thing. Because you are answerable to the court and you'll keep doing. And in CBI, in organization, the duty is that, everything is on the paper. Suppose if I want to have my own opinion, I can keep it on the paper and say this is what is my, that is how I perceive, and it is submitted to the higher authorities. That's why you have a lot of transparency, and you can always put forth your ideas and this thing. That is what I look into. Otherwise, as far as the interference is concerned, I can tell at my level, see that in all the matters which we investigated, I can say that there was no pressure at all.
That's very good to know, because that's probably not the perception that we get, especially if you take an example of Ashok Kemka, how he was, of course he's not CBI, but he's a bureaucrat. So he was trying to do his job maybe too sincerely, and every time he goes somewhere he gets kicked off in just in days or months or years, and most of the times it's because the local politicians did not like what he's doing. So when we hear about examples like that, it seems like there's a lot of control. Maybe you're saying it's not for the CBI.
Yeah, that's what. Out of my own experience, I've been sharing this with you.
I see. Very good. And there's a lot of public awareness and public involvement in the anti-corruption movement in the last few years. And so activists like Anna Hazare and Arvind Kejriwal, they were asking for a Jan Lokpal bill. One of the issues is that CBI should have more powers, not only to investigate but also to take action. What is your opinion on Jan Lokpal bill, or a Lokpal bill which was introduced by the government but it did not pass?
So basically the movement started was to generate a lot of awareness in the youth, especially about this corruption and also the effects that it's going to have on the governance. So that's a good thing, and also a lot of people they have become aware of the about what corruption can bring in, and how it is detrimental to the governance. That's a good this thing that has happened. And also, in India, we have what is known as the Right to Information Act. That is another good act which has come so that people, especially the decision makers, their decisions and all, the public can have a copy of it, and they can go through how the decision has been taken. So these are the right directions towards bringing transparency in the governance. That is very much essential. Now the whole this thing about the Lokpal bill is to bring the institution called Lokpal. This has been thought of long back, because in some states like Karnataka and Orissa, we have what is known as the setup called the Lokayukta. So wherein the state anti-corruption bureau directly reports to the Lokayukta. So like that in the federal structure also, they want to bring in a Lokpal institution called the Lokpal, and the organizations which are working for these anti-corruption measures to work under the Lokpal. I think finally some form of Lokpal is likely to come, and definitely these are all the steps to bring in more transparency and more independence to the organizations.
Friends, NRI Samay is a non-profit independent alternate media from Los Angeles, USA, which brings positive stories from grassroots activists from all corners of India and across the world. If you have any interesting episode you would like NRI Samay to cover, we will be happy to do so. NRI Samay would also like to encourage amateur journalists who have a flair for highlighting current events. You can be part of our citizen journalist team. You could cover an important event, interview victims of an atrocity, or document an inspirational story. The idea is to have a mix of experience throughout all parts of the world, preferably supported by an audio or a video clip of your story to be aired, which will be the curtain raiser. You can also submit your opinion articles on important topics to NRI Samay. We will be happy to put it on nrisamay.com in the opinion section. All your work will be credited only to you. And if you're interested, please send an email to nrisamay@gmail.com.
I see. Very good. Very good. So I think then you think that it's better to have more independence and also more powers for CBI, which can make difference in the corruption, right?
Yeah, instead of, I never talk about the powers, because I am of the view that these organizations should close down on some day, wherein if we can bring up a better society and better individuals through the schools and colleges. The incidence of corruption, if we can reduce in the society, then these agencies will slowly cease to exist. That is the day when we can say that we have won the war against corruption. So that is how I look into, and that's why my going to schools and colleges is basically to make the better citizens of the country, so that they do not indulge in such sort of things, and they understand and they have empathy, and when they come up to some big positions in society, they have a commitment towards the society. So my way of looking at it is the organizations, empowering these organizations. Instead, if we can empower the society and make the society more responsible, then I think, that would be the, we can say that is the best contribution of someone to the society. So that's why initially when you asked me about this going to schools and colleges, my endeavor was that only, to make the children and the students more responsible citizens.
So, so you are saying that's the root cause, and that's where we should put our energy, so that the future will be brighter. How much, what's the role, or how much of a role both the parents and the school teachers have? That's pretty much most of the visibility young children get, right? That's where they get influence, or of course they can watch TV and movies and get influence from there too.
Basically what I say is when you are very small and all, the parents are the role models for us. When you grow up, the teachers are going to be the role models. So in my opinion, the parents and teachers, they have more and more lot of responsibility in towards this direction. So but unfortunately, the concept of joint family system almost getting vanished, and also having this nuclear families, so that has actually had a lot of impact on the individual behaviors, especially at the especially at the younger ages. But also a lot of other attractions and influences in the society, like what you mentioned as the TVs or these internets and your Facebooks and other things. So a lot of effective time and these things is being spent on this. I don't say that these are, but how effectively we are using for the better cause. So if these issues are addressed, especially when a child is small in the family, and also when he goes to school in the school by the teacher, then I think definitely the reply to the earlier this thing would be addressed in a much better manner.
I see. Growing up as a kid, the worst thing I could possibly do was to lie to the parents. So that's considered as the biggest mistake, and that could never happen in my house. I'm telling as an example. But can you give maybe an example of where we have lost it? I know you mentioned about vanishing joint families and influence on influence of TVs and movies, etc. But is there any specific example you can give?
I mean, it's what I said about the general trend in the society, because when I interact with the children, when I ask about some of the freedom fighters or some of the people who have brought a lot of laurels to the country, I mean, they are not remembering. The moment I ask them about some of the film heroes, they remember them much better. So that's why I could see the impact that these things are creating on the children. So definitely, I mean, I always say that the spirituality, the culture, and what India had, that should be inculcated in the children. Because India, I mean, if you look into the civilization part of it, I mean, when the civilizations or some of the countries were not born, we had the best civilization in our country. So this has to be told, and a sense of patriotism and sense of belongingness to the country needs to be developed in the younger generation. That is possible, I feel. It is in the by the parents and the teachers, and also all the sections of society. This is what I look into as they should be the contribution.
Yeah, that is a very good point. It reminds me of what I saw just yesterday on NDTV. They put a poll saying they put about 60 people on there, and they're asking who is the 25 greatest Indians currently alive, and at least 50% of them are movie stars, and so that reflects what we see as great people and great achievement. And the list did not have even Anna Hazare, who is mainstream now. His name is mainstream, or Sundarlal Bahuguna, or several people who sacrificed for the country. So that's a good example that you made. I'd like to go back to one of the cases that you handle, high-profile cases, Jagan Mohan Reddy's. There's a lot of obsession from the media when the case was going on, especially the initial phases of the investigation. They were jumping up and down. The reporters, we saw them on the TV, and they were waiting outside for hours and hours in front of your offices, and they're making up stories, or there is theories and a lot of stuff going on, a lot of talk about it going on. So do you think that kind of makes it difficult for you to do the job? Or of course, this is not a normal case. You probably handled a lot of them, but this is a pinnacle of media obsession, you would think.
Yeah, media is there in the society, and also, I mean, because they are the people who are giving information to the public. That's what is the role of the media. And I mean, I never felt that this thing was there. And also, right now the Honorable Supreme Court Chief Justice also mentioned that media should not conduct their own trial. Media trials and all should be avoided, because that will lead to a different this thing altogether. So that's why, there has to be this thing. Definitely, we felt that the more and media coverage and all, it was there in most of the cases which we handled, maybe because of the high-profile nature which they had. But it was never an hindrance to our, we used to do our job. We used to do our job.
Friends, NRI Samay is a non-profit independent alternate media from Los Angeles, USA, which brings positive stories from grassroots activists from all corners of India and across the world. NRI Samay does not rely on corporate funding and our shows are commercial free. We only rely on your donations. Corporate funded media is driven by the TRP rating and profits are blurring the distinction between news and entertainment. Why do our news channels talk so much about cricket, movies, accidents, popular figures' personal lives, babies of heroines, gossips, etc., while they should be covering the struggles of people, inequality in our society, rural issues, and border security issues? Why did our media raise some corruption crusaders to the sky on one day and shut them off completely when graft charges were raised on those corporate sponsors? Media relies so much on the corporate funding and government blessings that they cannot report independently. NRI Samay is different. We don't accept funds from any corporations and hence our shows are commercial free. We completely rely on donations from you. Please consider donating to NRI Samay and please go to nrisamay.com and donate generously. This is the only way together that we can continue NRI Samay. All donations are kept transparent on nrisamay.com. And if you have any questions, please write to nrisamay@gmail.com.
I know you are more hopeful and more positive attitude, of course, and you have you are the right person in the place. But as far as the public is concerned, there is a skepticism about politicians getting convicted and putting them in jail because CBI can do the investigation, but after that, it's up to the courts and the lawyers and how they fight on this one. And especially based on our own track record, the precedent that was set up, not a lot of politicians are actually convicted. Somewhere it gets lost. So based on that, the people are thinking that Jagan Reddy or even Kal Janardhan, they'll just use these cases as a bargaining chip in the coming elections. And, I'm talking about the perception. May be far from the reality. But from your perspective, what gives hope that this gets to a logical conclusion?
I talk in general because not for specific cases because I'm no more in the organization and I have left the organization. So it is not correct on my part to talk about few cases. But in general, I say any investigation depends on the evidence which you are producing before the court. And who are going to give the evidence? It is the people who are going to give the evidence that is more important. But many of the people, what I have seen, they don't come forward to depose. They don't come forward to give evidence before us. So that in general, in all cases, it makes difficult for us to collect evidence. People say that we don't want to come, we don't want to depose, we don't want to come to the courts and all. So ultimately, it is the evidence which is going to be weighed in the court of law. So that's why my thing to the people is that they are part of the system. They are part of the system and they should come forward and they should depose. And ultimately, the governance is for the people only. So if you want a better criminal justice system to prevail, people should come forward and cooperate with the investigating agencies so that, a better quality of evidence is presented before the court so that the cases lead to some logical conclusion. So because I can't comment about particular cases, in general, this is my observation. So that's why people should be made aware that this is the system, and in fact, we are suggesting that these things should be included in the curriculum, so that people should be aware that how the cases are investigated and how the cases are tried in the courts, so that the people realize their role in the whole process and they also become part of the process.
I'd say excellent. That's a very good message for everybody to get involved and be part of the system.
Yes.
I'll push a little bit more. You can say you don't want to answer, but let me try this anyway. In terms of when you are doing the investigation, obviously there are a lot of people involved. There were government orders involved. So there were ministers who signed these government orders, etc. And when what we heard on the news is that when CBI was trying to get these files, there's not a lot of cooperation, at least at some point. So from your perspective, are you kind of satisfied by the time obviously it's not in your hands anymore, but by the time your role ended in that specific case, were you kind of satisfied with the evidence that you received and how the case was progressing?
We did our, whatever is 100% possible, we did. That's what is my reply. Yeah.
Could you elaborate on Karma Yoga that you were saying, which should be followed?
Yeah, Karma Yoga, because I follow Bhagavad Gita. Follow Bhagavad Gita, and it clearly says that do your duty. It is what the dilemma which Arjuna had on the battlefield. Then that is what is the clarification given to him, that do your duty. Do your duty and to your 100%. Contribute everything. Whatever is the potential you have, you contribute. Then definitely you will... then you have done your job, definitely the results are going to come, because you may not concentrate on the result, but when you have put 100% in a thing, definitely it is going to result in that. And the second thing is the detachment, what you should have. Once you get attached, all the worries will start. You do your job and get detached from that. Then you will not have any worries, and this thing, you have done your job. This is what is the brief Karma Yoga, what I could pick up from Bhagavad Gita.
I see. And is it also part of the stress management that you personally follow? Can you give some information on that?
Yeah, my stress management is within I do my regular morning walks, and also I do this pranayama of the art of living by Sri Ravi Shankar, which is called the Sudarshan Kriya. I've been practicing this for the last 13 years, and I can say that, for me, this is a great stress buster, and also I don't get attached to the detachment which I learned from Bhagavad Gita. The regular normal routine of physical activity which I'm following. All of these things keep me totally free from this stress.
I see. And before we end the call, so suppose if somebody, I know you talked about opening a school and becoming a teacher, so if somebody would like to be part of this either by sending their kids, or maybe they want to volunteer, or some way if they want to contribute, I know you still probably still working on it, how can they contribute or connect with you?
Yeah, definitely, because this is one of the dreams, because I wanted to become a professor, and now I'm here, but post-retirement I have already thought of starting a school, and with a traditional school wherein the children will not be excellent not only in academics but also in the other things, because I mentioned that I wanted to bring out at least 30 Vivekanandas every year from that school. That is what is my imagination, or what I'm working towards that. So if anybody is interested, and I can, my mail ID I can always leave. It is Vasagiri, VASAGIRI @gmail.com. If anybody is interested in giving suggestions, or if somebody wants to be associated with it, they are most welcome. Because these are I always feel that through these institutions only we can bring change in the society. So, if through your channel, or your, if you can just repeat this thing also, my mail ID, it is Vasagiri, VASAGIRI @gmail.com. So, I can get to know who are all the people interested, so that when the project actually is commenced, or it's on the initial stage, so that I can contribute and I can discuss with them with all the inputs, let us make one of the best institutions in the country. This is what is my dream.
Excellent, excellent. But I think there's a lot of people who will jump and they'll say, my kid needs a seat, but you will probably have some kind of limitation, right? Because you cannot put 1 crore people in a school. So how do you plan it? So you obviously plan to filter out based on some criteria?
Yeah, in the sense, right now it is at the blueprint stage only. I'm just consulting so many academicians and people who have actually started their schools and all. And so that it's all the inputs which I am collecting. So that in case if this model can work out, we can replicate. We can have more number of schools. That is what is this thing. To start with, let us have one institution and see how it functions. If it is successful or if it is good, then we can always have the replicate it, so that to cater to the needs of the people.
Okay, excellent. I'll tell one input that I heard from a great man very recently last week. Anna Hazare ji was in Los Angeles, and he was explaining about a school he started, and the criteria for him to take the children is they have to at least fail 2 or 3 times. So he only takes a very, very bad performing students, and then he said the success rate is 100%. So maybe that's, we don't want kids failing just because they want to get into your school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Excellent, excellent. Sir, before we end this call, is there a message that you would like to give our listeners? They are pretty much across the world, mostly Indians listening online.
Yeah, my message is that India, we have a great culture, and we have a lot of intelligent brains and other these things. And my message is that let's all bring back to the old glory to our great nation. That's what what Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam says, that by the year 2020, the nations all over the world should say that a country should be like India and citizens should be like Indians. That is what is the best thing I heard from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. And also, if all of us come together and if we can feel that the country has rich traditions and rich culture and all, let us especially make the youth part of the whole process, and also let them realize the traditions and culture of this great nation, and let us bring back the glory of this great nation once again. That is what I always request, and I also, everybody should feel that it is, we should contribute. It is not that only the other fellow should contribute, and if I say that others should do and I will not do, that will not come. So the change has to come from within. So if everybody can change and everybody can have this, then definitely I feel that we can bring back the glory to our great nation.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I spent a lot of time, and we appreciate all the inputs that you gave.
Yeah. Right. Thank you very much. Nice talking to you.
Good night.
Right. Good night.
Friends, if you liked today's show, please go to youtube.com/NRI Samay and click on the subscribe button. You will get notified every time we publish a new show. And you can also like us on our social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Google+.